Or how is it
Well,
there, more to
normally
the
at this
point?
time, yeah, I mean, it's surrounded by police, to be honest. The venue is absolutely on lockdown. Normally at this time, on this day, it would be setting up for a sea of candlelight, if you will. It's a de facto funeral. Around 100,000 people would show up, and there would be absolute silence punctuated with protest songs and commemorations and the lighting of a flame that's passed to the younger generation. But as of this afternoon, as I popped down, police were setting up, installing big signs warning people that it's against the law to gather, tannoy announcements saying the same thing. We understand 7,000 police are fanning out across the city today. We've even saw the water cannon vehicle knocking around. We've also witnessed some stop and search action around the park. We've still a reporter down there at the moment. There does seem to be at least a couple of determined people who have shown up either wearing black or holding a candle. But the Security Bureau made it clear last weekend that anyone trying to attend this is going to face perhaps up to 5 years in prison for unlawful assembly, or even a year in prison for promoting it. So a high price for those who are seeking to at least go to the park this evening.
Is this a new level of controls?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually a very peaceful gathering, and this year we're seeing even the Cross Harbour tunnels that have police roadblocks and vehicle checks. And this is 2 days after the Tiananmen Massacre Museum was closed by officials, saying they didn't have a license for it, and a medical union has been stopped from showing a Tiananmen film. So I guess we're seeing what is more common in the mainland in this effort to force people not to commemorate or give mention, I suppose, to the Tiananmen Massacre under this idea of the COVID-19 outbreak. In neighboring Macau, they've been more straightforward, perhaps, and cited subversion as a reason to ban the commemorations there. But who knows in the years to come whether they will be citing the security law, for instance, to either stop the vigil or even ban the alliance on the grounds that it's calling for an end to one-party rule.
Can you give us a little history? What's the relevance of Victoria Park as the place to meet?
Well, it's mostly just a large venue. I mean, nowadays it's right around the corner from the national security base that was set up after this law was passed last June 30th. Last year, it was also banned on COVID grounds, but people did clamber over the barricades, and thousands actually got in and marked the occasion. Some, just in recent weeks, have gone to prison for months on end for attending that vigil. But this isn't to say that there aren't other things happening around the city. We saw last night that some individual artists had set up performances in Causeway Bay, the shopping district around the park. 7 or 8 churches are going to be holding masses tonight. We understand that should be going ahead, some of it live streamed. And some local district councillors have been giving out candles. But we have another reporter in the busy district of Mongkok who's going to see if some student groups are going to be allowed to hold some stalls or give out candles. I imagine that the police may be cracking down on that as well. The irony, of course, with all this is at the same time the government is saying we're coming out of the fourth wave of COVID. Big events can start up again, like Art Basel or some of the other things, sporting events and musical events that have been planned just this fortnight. So quite odd that the government is celebrating it in that sense, and yet the police are deploying thousands of police officers to prevent people from gathering in their thousands, apparently due to COVID-19.
Now, you mentioned 7,000 police. Is this number a new number, or is that the number that's usual now in terms of the force being deployed?
It's the kind of numbers we were seeing during the 2019 protests, and certainly nothing like that. They usually keep a low profile during the vigil, if anything. I mean, one aspect we haven't mentioned here is in the early hours today, the actual organizer, or rather the head of the group that organizes the vigil, was arrested for allegedly promoting the vigil alongside a 20-year-old delivery man, a food delivery man. And as we've seen with a lot of recent court cases, they tend to focus on or target high-profile people, such as Chow Hang-tung, the vice chair of the alliance. But the arrest of, a regular person, perhaps a Hong Konger, this delivery person, sends another message, maybe to the public, that everyone may be vulnerable to arrest if you are seeking to promote or attend or advertise the Tiananmen vigil this evening.
And has that stopped promotion of the event tonight?
We haven't seen much in terms of people promoting the vigil, although police at a press conference this afternoon, as they were setting up these barricades around the park, say that people have threatened to show up tonight. But I think what is more likely, and what we're seeing on social media, is that people will make their own personal commemorations. Even in communities, people have been told not to gather in groups of more than 4, which is currently illegal here due to COVID. But it seems that at least this year, people may not be forgetting what happened, but they will be marking it in a much lower profile manner. As for the years to come, that's a different question.
Chow Hang-tung, as you mentioned, has been arrested. Has there been any outcry about her arrest?
Well, we've seen statements from NGOs like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, even any kinds of protest at the moment, there hasn't been any in months. It's very difficult to sort of gauge what people's reactions are, to be honest, and she has not been released. Perhaps this was an effort to ensure that she did not go to the vigil tonight. We actually spoke to her days ago ahead of her arrest, and she said that she would like to mark Friday, as she has done for many years, and she urged people to do the same in a legal and safe manner. So I guess we will have to wait for the court case to see what they may be referring to when it comes to explicit instructions to actually go down to the park and violate the law. Anyone showing up tonight could face up to 5 years. She faces up to a year for allegedly promoting it now.
Now, it's coming up to 6:30 in Hong Kong. What time is the vigil? Would it usually get underway?
Around 8 o'clock, there's usually a huge stage and people would pour in after work. It's very hot and humid at the moment. But us journalists and photographers would often gather on a car park overlooking it, and that's where you get those iconic photos of these sea of lights. And, we're preparing a photo piece showing those scenes over the last 3 decades. And that's going to be contrasted with this rather ominous photo this evening of these football fields that are completely empty and surrounded by hundreds, perhaps thousands of police. So we're then going to wander down through the park and see if we can speak to anyone, or at least witness the police deployment and check on the districts and see if there's anything happening elsewhere other than these church gatherings. So that's our plan for the next couple of hours.
Tom, it's great talking to you, and we will be watching, and we'll let's come back to you next week, or at least in the next few days. It won't be our program, but someone else here at Radio New Zealand.